Well, that's where we begin our bulletin this hour, with a disposable income of South African households already under immense pressure, but additional costs keep coming. Households have to go out of their way to find alternative sources of energy in order to keep the lights on during power cuts, and skyrocketing fuel prices are now adding salt to that wound. So would disposable income be better in the absence of these challenges? Let's find out from economist Xhanti Payi, who's joining us now with some of his expertise. Xhanti, good afternoon. So could we have more money in our pockets were it not of load shedding? Can we just start there?
Well, it would seem that we probably would. And one of the interesting markers of that, actually, some of the numbers that we saw coming out of GDP. And one of the things that number we understand tells us is that much of the money that business invested in was in solar panels or in solar energy or alternative energy sources. And of course, we know that there's always a cost whenever, an opportunity cost in which if you invest money or spend money in one thing, it means you're not spending money on another thing. And that tells us that, perhaps, many of these businesses might have had to cut to somewhere else, perhaps, in salary increases, they may have had to cut in bonuses, they may have had to cut in employment or actually people. And that tells us something about actually the importance or the devastating effect that load shedding has had over time in life.
Yeah, and then you throw to a normal household the cost of fuel that's just gone up again. When you look at diesel, about R1.90 a litre up, and we know how much diesel is used or plays an important role in our economic value chain.
Certainly, that's very, very important, of course, because many, of course, of the transportation of our goods moving from place to place are moved through, trucks, and trucks, of course, tend to use diesel. And so that is something that tends to funnel through, even though it might be some cycle, but it does tend to funnel through into the cost of goods. But it's also interesting because many people have started to switch from petrol cars, to diesel cars. I know many people I know, just thinking anecdotally, who said, it's much better to actually drive a diesel car given, the high cost of living. But because, of course, if you're starting to see also those increases, perhaps that's also going to start to betray them in terms of what they thought that would be.
Yeah. What do we do, Xhanti? I mean, what can households do? I mean, the income is under pressure in households, and the expenditure is rising, and credit is also rising.
Look, I mean, it's very difficult, it's very difficult. I think one of the things that we've said for a very long time now, that households have to start, tightening the belt. But they've been tightening the belt for quite some time. But one of the key things that we've been hearing, especially from financial advisors, that many households tend to be very shy to go out and have engagements with creditors. That's going to be a very, very important part, probably, in terms of actually going out there and saying to your creditors, these are the challenges that I'm facing. I cannot wait, because we're starting to see, of course, credit starting to decline. But also, some of the issues that consumers, the car has been taken away from people defaulting on credit. And that means that people have not actually been having the kind of conversations that they should be having with creditors to make arrangements to make sure that they can actually sort of wade through this very, very difficult moment that they have. But apart from that, really, it's very difficult to think about much else.
Thank you very much, Xhanti Payi. We appreciate your insights here on Today on eNCA. Is, of course, an economist.